It was really the first young lady who talked about my Vans. So after she talked about my Vans, even though I got them on the last second, when she talked about my Vans, in my mind, I said, "Oh, everybody else is getting it." I'm from East Cleveland, Ohio. We joke, and I know how to take jokes too, but I
Okay.
do know how to turn it on when it need to be turned on.
Okay, so she activated your villain
She
era.
activated. She activated my Shaw High.
Hey guys, welcome to Little Black Bert 91, your favorite dating and relationship coach. We are talking to you guys again about dismissive avoidant tendencies. I was watching Pop the Balloon, and Braylene and Kiana's relationship was very, very interesting. I watched Braylene and his body language and his behaviors, and I came up with 6 red flags, or rather it's actually 5 red flags, to his behavior, which is tied into dismissive avoidant behavior. If you don't know anything about what I'm talking about, dismissive avoidant behavior is an attachment style. It is something that was born in the psychology field by John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth, who noticed that young children, the way they attach to their caregiver was also some of the ways that they would attach to adult relationships. And so when you look at dismissive avoidance, one of 4, number 1 is secure, which everybody's trying to be, secure attachment, meaning that you're not insecure. And the other 3 are insecure attachments, meaning that, there is anxious, meaning that we probably lean in too much in relationships. We're always trying to prove and earn our love. And then there is avoidant dismissive, which is obviously people who are dismissive of their own emotions and usually dismissive of other people's too. And then you have fearful avoidant, who contain both the dismissive traits, or should say rather the avoidant traits, and also the anxious traits as well. So they're both hot and cold. In this particular video, we're talking about dismissive avoidant tendencies. And if you are somebody who's new to this, then this video should potentially help you maybe understand yourself a little bit better if you can identify with some of the behaviors here. Okay, so we've got 5 red flags I'm going to point out, because when I watched this video, I looked at Braylon and I thought to myself, you know what, he could have made a great partner. His insecurity has driven him to a place where the relationship is going to be sabotaged simply by the way that he's operated. But the truth of the matter is also, we've got to ask the young lady why she spent so much time with Braylon. There is something also about her as to why she decided to try and figure it out with Braylon as well. But that's another part of the video we'll do later on. Which one is 5 red flags, which are simply this. Number 1, heavy criticism is one of those things. Number 2 is ghosting and stonewalling. Number 3 is control, breaking boundaries. Number 4 is delay reactions. Number 5 is withdrawal from a lack of intimacy or rejection, and then withdrawing from the relationship. And he does all 5, and I'm going to show you the clips that are going to break it all the way down. So if you're new to the channel, do me a massive favor, like it, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for notification of the uploads. Make sure you guys as well don't turn the channel over. Make sure you guys are subscribed and you're involved. You know what I'm saying to you? And it's a live one, so comment in the chat. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and then comment in the comment section for the replays as well. Let's get into the video. Let's break this all the way down. We're going to talk about, first and foremost, heavy criticism is the first one we're going to deal with. And we're going to talk about why I believe that this was instituted in a relationship. You have to understand something about dismissive avoidance. They can be very heavily critical in the way that they talk about their partners at points in time, because they have not found a balance between, being able to be kind and harsh. And they feel like they're going to be taken advantage of. And so what sometimes happens is they end up going the whole other scale. Stating your preferences is never an issue. If you want to state your preferences, by all means do it. But I've said it on the channel many times. When we state something in truth without love, it's cruelty. And a lot of times, dismissive avoidance can get caught in that trap where they can end up becoming cruel simply because they're trying to protect themselves and they feel defensive. And rather than telling the truth in love and taking their time, they won't. They'll say it quite rudely. So let's just look at one of the clips as to why I said that he's heavy with the criticism and put downs, and then we'll break that down for you guys as well. All right, so let's look at this first one. I think here, just run about here, and we'll come back to this clip in a second.
This is one of your deal breakers?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So what about some of the other comments you said? Like, what was going through your mind during those moments?
I think it was just people not used to the men having preferences, and I think that's an issue.
Okay.
I have a preference. I didn't say anything bad about any woman. I just stated my preference.
Okay.
What I like. Women say what they like all the time, and that's fine. But when a guy says it, it's all bad.
Okay.
I think that's horrible.
What?
Now, obviously, we heard him say about he was just stating his preferences. Okay, this is one aspect. Stating your preferences is fine. But the reason why people were annoyed with you is not because you stated your preference. It's because of the way you stated your preference, right? It's the way that you stated your preference and how you state your preferences within the show, right? Which was becoming off demeaning and rude and very heavy critical. But the reality of the situation is he can't even take what he dishes out. He actually can't take the dishing out. What he gave, he could not handle it himself. So that lets us know that you're very sensitive to criticism, yet you're willing to dish it out and give it. And that for me is a problem, right? We're going to go a little bit more on a clip again. Listen to this part here as to why I'm saying he's very sensitive. Listen to this.
Kenya, though, I don't know who's coming
The
from.
whole continent, man.
Wow.
No, it was just fun, man. It was just some funny games.
Okay.
It was really the first young lady who talked about my Vans. So after she talked about my Vans, even though I got them on the last second, when she talked about my Vans, in my mind, I said, oh, everybody else is getting it.
Now let's pause it right there. Why does everybody else get it when it was that one lady? Surely if it's one lady that talks about your Vans, talk about that one lady. Why did all the other ladies also have to get it as well? That should let you know that he's overly sensitive to criticism or being joked upon. Yet you yourself are saying that, you know what, that one girl said something and now everybody's getting it. Right? Overly sensitive, now everybody's getting it. When it should be, if anything, it should have been that one girl who said something and you say it to her. Instead, everybody else is getting it. Now I want to go further because I think even later on, another situation happens as well. Much later on. I want to get to... I hope I put these in right order. Okay, so let's look at this part here.
Okay, because I'm pretty sure I consistently kept calling you and you were not answering. But you sent text every day.
My definition of talking is what you're doing a lot of right now.
Oh,
all right.
There's a lot of kikiing going on. How you doing? How's your day at work? On repeat.
So it was just a lot of text messaging, but you wanted more conversation over the phone.
Oh, he absolutely knows I wanted more conversation. How do we talk for 2 weeks straight and you call me every single day, all the time, and all of a sudden it just got dry?
I was salty, and I told you.
As he explained himself, he was salty, right? And that's why he behaved the way he behaved with her. The reality of the situation is dismissive avoidance. When they don't deal with their internal pain, they bleed on other people, right? So his sensitivity made him want to open up. Okay, all right. So that's why I looked at it and I said, I don't like this behavior. Now, of course, again, there are levels to this, right? So with obviously not every dismissive avoidant is exactly the same, but in this instance, when I was listening to him, I said, I don't like what I'm hearing, and the sensitivity that caused you to be salty enough to ghost her, stonewall her, as well, and the overemphasis on sex, I said, we might have a problem here. We might have a bigger problem than they're letting us know. You know what I'm saying to you? And then obviously that little undertone in voice of him saying, you know, you're doing a lot of talking. I said, I don't like the way he's talking, right? I don't like that. And so you'll notice that with the heavy criticism, he tries to prove his innocence quite a bit as well, right? Because image is very important a lot to dismissive avoidance because they don't want to seem like the bad guy, right? Now they will get to that point when they snap, but they don't want to be the bad guy just because they want to be the bad guy, right? They're not okay just being the bad guy. If they snap, then it's different. Like they've allowed you 3, 4, 5 chances. Then they snap. They don't care about being a villain. But when we're not at that point yet, right? The image is very important to dismissive avoidance. They don't like things to be wrong. Why? Because it leads to rejection. What you must understand about dismissive avoidance is the core wound is the feeling of being rejected. They don't like rejection and abandonment. So they do things to make sure they don't get rejected. One of those things is to build up a perfectionist image. So when you criticize them, really and truly, it's hard for them to take because they've created an image of perfection. Okay? So this is also an important part. Let's listen again.
Physical therapist, so I work in the hospital.
Yeah.
So I have to physically go into work every day. But she works from home, which is great, which means you can take your work anywhere you go. But for me, that's not how that works. And I work long days. And I said this before, that like, I also have my own fitness business, okay? Confidence Fitness.
Hey. Just keep on going. Just keep on going.
Yep. So I literally do my 9 to 5 and I work.
You know, I'm present. I was there. I was helpful.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, okay.
I
didn't mean anything by that, okay? We
to the tizzy.
Burn your shots back. Come on.
Right.
Please.
As you heard her say, bring the shots back. Why? Because he was throwing shots in between that time, right? So in that space, when he was throwing the shots, what you actually were hearing, was him trying to defend his image. Because as a dismissive avoidant, the fear is if you break the image, if I don't look perfect, then rejection is coming. This is why a lot of the behaviors are about protecting self and ego. And when that gets broken or that gets distorted, there is a reaction that tends to happen. So you hear him doing protesting behaviors where he's protesting his innocence, and she's like, whoa, the shots are too many. Like, because he's beginning to become passive aggressive and he doesn't realize that, right? But he's doing that as a way of trying to protect that perfectionist image, because again, it stops rejection. Okay. Number 2. All right. Number 2 we're going to deal with is ghosting and stonewalling. Now, I think this was very important to deal with as well, because I think in this aspect, it comes from when you hear him talking about the quality time they spent, right, and what it actually did for him. So let's listen a bit more, because one thing as well is a lot of times with dismissive avoidance, quality time does play a lot of role, an allotted role in a lot of them, because again, they were neglected as children oftentimes, right? And so the parent or caregiver neglected that child's needs, and oftentimes that was a neglect also in the area of spending quality time with that child. Had you spent quality time with that child, they probably wouldn't have their needs unmet. So quality time seems to be a lot of times a lot of dismissive avoidance kind of spec. Once they don't get that from the party, they're reading it as rejection. Let's listen.
I let you shine because that was your platform. And I let you shine, and I stood off to the side with no issue. So don't say that I wasn't present when I was there.
Okay. I'm not saying you weren't present. I'm just saying it was just like
You wanted him
you
more
were
engaged?
occupied.
You want me to stroll with you?
Obviously not. It's just not appropriate, obviously. You're just not a part. But it's okay. It's okay.
So
I literally do my 9 to 5 and I work like a good 10-hour day, either like 7 to 5 or I'll do like 9 to 7 and then I'll go straight to the gym after, do like an 8 p.m. session, be there till like 10:30.
So she gone from like, what, 6 in the morning to like 10 at night?
I'm gone like all day. And I mentioned this. I said this.
understand, you know.
you told him that before he went out there.
I told him this.
Okay.
Because he goes to bed like 9 o'clock.
Okay, so obviously, like they mentioned, right? He goes. I think he goes to bed early as well. And obviously, for her, she was working she was working, I think, 3 days in a row, where she worked almost like 18 hours in a day. And the reason why she said she did that was because she wanted to organize her time so that she can also spend time with him going to Florida later on. Okay, which she actually didn't end up going to. Now that what you're going to hear him speak about is the need for quality time and physical touch. We're going to talk about that in a second, but let's listen.
And we were chatting on the phone before for that week that I like, came back from Ohio. There was a week and then he came that next week afterwards. So we're chatting. You know what time I'm out till every single night. I just think when it got there, the reality just like set in. And I just like, I feel like maybe if I took some more days off, it was a little more present and we had more time together, maybe it would have been a little bit better.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Braylon.
My brother just, wish I could have had more time. I like time. I like affection.
Okay.
I want to be loved on.
Oh,
I'm a big teddy bear.
We're just gonna get right to that part.
So now,
No, I was just.
So as you heard, obviously two things actually happened here. So he said, obviously, I'm a teddy bear, I want to be loved upon. And then obviously the comment after when she said, obviously he responded by saying, oh, we're just going to go there. They're talking about sex. I think that's what they're really talking about. Let's be honest. Because she didn't need to interrupt about that point. We're going to go there. It's about the sex. But yes, he wanted more time. He wanted to be loved upon. He wanted more hugs. He said he wanted to be touched. Okay. All right. And he didn't get that. So what happens when you don't get that is that there is a reaction from the dismissive avoidant. The dismissive avoidant will read that you're not giving him that or heard that as you are now rejecting them. A lot of times the dismissive avoidant will not have a conversation with you when they are not healed, because they don't know how to come to the table and say, actually, you know what? By you not giving me that affection, it's really making me feel rejected in this moment, and by me feeling rejected, I want to pull away from you. How can we rectify this? And so instead of actually leaning in and having a conversation and drawing closer to the party, the dismissive avoidant will do what dismissive avoidants do, which is avoid. And so they will pull away from a situation rather than leaning in and explaining where they're coming from to get a better response from the party. Right, which is what ends up happening, and then it becoming ghosting in the effect of the relationship. Okay, all right. So this is also an important part. So I wanted to put another clip on as well. The ghosting part, yeah. So they're going to talk about the ghosting part in a second here. So let's get to it as well. All right.
Kind of upset. I was literally sick and in the hospital. I literally got admitted to the hospital, and I told him that, and I was like, I've already been out of work, like literally Monday to Tuesday. It's Wednesday. We were supposed to leave on Thursday for the rest of the week. And I said, that's an unplanned whole entire week off of work. We didn't plan that. I worked 10-hour days. So like I was going to just, first 3 days, just do my 30 hours. And I could just, take the rest of the week off. And that obviously was not in the plans. I couldn't have, predicted I was going to get sick.
yeah.
And then for you to just ghost me, I was livid. Absolutely livid after that. 100%
So
livid.
he ghosted you when
Now let's pause it right here. If you watch his body language, listen, I do think he knows he messed up. I will be honest with you. I think he knows he messed up. Let me tell you why I think he knows he messed up. His body language is telling me he's full of shame, right? If the head down on several occasions, actually, when I watched the video, I watched it 3 times. On several occasions, his head is down. He knows he messed up. So he knows, I think he knows there's a part of him, which is, that needs working on, Whether he's willing to work on it is another story. But he knows, because he knows he messed up here. She said she was in hospital, and actually, if you watch the video clip at this point, if you go closer to his lips, I watched his lip went, meaning that he knew he messed up. Like, you know when you're like, I done messed up because she was in hospital. He didn't know she was in hospital. Why would you not know that? Because you ghosted her, bro. So you wouldn't have known that. Rather than, again, having a conversation, he's ghosted her because he feels rejected, rather than communicating in that point and in that space.
You called him or you texted him saying you're sick and you're not gonna make the trip. Like, how did that conversation go?
It basically went like, hey, I don't think I'm gonna go to Florida.
Watch again. Look at his head down. Look at his head down again. He's scratching his leg. He's ashamed. He knows he did wrong.
It just is not feasible. It just logically it does not make sense right now.
Okay.
And he was upset. He took it pretty well.
On the phone, or this was
on the phone?
Uh-huh.
And that's probably like the last conversation on the phone. But yeah, so he took it pretty well.
Uh-huh.
Kinda. He like hung up and was like, I'm gonna call you back. And I said, what? I said, okay. So we are upset. Okay. But then he called back and he's like, I understand, like, you know what? It's not your fault that you got, sick. And I was like, okay, like, I'm sorry. Like, what else can I say? Like, I just feel bad. Mm-hmm. And then we hashed that out. That was fine. I thought everything was fine. Next thing you know, the next day, no call, no response. I called 3 times, no call back. I said, oh, not me getting ghosted. What is this?
Now, the reason why he ghosted her is because he read her behavior as a rejection. He read her behavior as, she doesn't want me, right? So the internal feeling he has, okay, the internal wounds that he has, he read her being sick. And I know it sounds mad. You probably think to yourself, what do you mean she was sick? But he's reading it as, how you going to get sick at this point in time? How you going to get sick at this point in time? You must not want me. So that's how he's going to read it, right? Now, someone might say, well, how would you read it that way? Well, that's what happens when you got wounds, okay? When you're carrying wounds, you tend to look at things in a very skewed way, which is why he looks ashamed now, because what would have happened in that immediate moment, here's what would have happened to him. When she said she was sick, his thought process was, I've spent money on the holiday. You told me that, you know what? You're going to work for the next 30 hours. The next 3 days, you're going to work for the next 18 or whatever hours you're going to do. I'm not going to see you much, right? But I'm going to able to see you in Florida. So what ends up happening is, once she then says she's sick and she can't come to Florida, what his mind does is that he becomes activated, right? Well, when we say activated, what we mean by that is his senses become heightened, right? His sense of what? His sense of rejection and abandonment, that feeling, that wound gets pressed deep, and he feels a pain that rises up. Now, when you haven't healed, this thing rises all the way up, and it will cause you to make an action that will sabotage your situation, because you can't see anything else but the pain that you're feeling, right? A bit like when you stub your toe and you want to say some things, right? It's the same thing emotionally. And so because he hasn't done the work, what happened is it rose up, right? And he said, I'm in pain, and I feel like you. And one thing about dismissive avoidance, and I'm one of them. This is really bad. We believe that you do things on purpose. But like, if you wanted to, you'd have done it. If you wanted to, you could have been there. We're very black and white, and without a gray. So immediately, what you were seeing is he would have been activated. He would have rose up. He would have felt like he's overwhelmed by the pain that he's feeling. He probably linked it back to a past pain and thought to himself, if she was serious, He's told himself a whole little narrative and a story. And then as that story plays, he then tells her, he then ghosts her, sorry. Right? He then ghosts her. Because now he feels like he's been rejected and he feels like he's been abandoned by her. Even though she said she went to the hospital. Because remember, the prior thing that happened was that he had already felt some level of rejection, wanting quality time with her, and she was working instead. And then going to see her and the AKA situation where she was doing strolling but didn't spend much time with him. Okay?
Highly upset. Then the next day, still didn't text me back, still didn't call me back. Then sends a text mid-afternoon just with a hey.
He sends you a message saying, hey.
Yeah, just hey.
Okay.
Not a returned call to my 3 missed calls. Okay. At that point, I'm just like, you know what, I'm done. Because what are we doing here?
Okay. Braylene, what happened during the 36 hours?
What happened during the 36 hours? I really want to know.
Well, one thing that I've, as I done gotten older, I realized that, sometimes that you do have to apologize when you're wrong. Mm-hmm. And I was wrong for ghosting you for 36 hours. Mm-hmm. My apologies, sincerely.
Now, the ghosting, he might be with another girl. He might not have been with another girl. We don't really know. It doesn't really matter. What we do know is that dismissives will do that for you. When they are still in the early stages of not really healing, they will do a ghosting and they will stonewall you. If they feel like you're hurting them, they will stonewall and they will ghost, which is why it becomes, why someone says they look, well, dismissives can look like narcissists. Not all people who are dismissive are narcissists. I need you to get out of that pocket and that space. Not everybody who's an avoidant, a fearful avoidant, or dismissive avoidant are narcissists, guys. It's not every time that somebody's a narcissist, but people do carry certain traits that may seem like that. Okay? So, did he mean to do that and ghost her? Absolutely, he meant to ghost her. Right? He absolutely meant to ghost her and absolutely stonewalled her because he was hurt in that moment. And the only way he can process what he's feeling is by separating himself. Number one. Number two, he needs to punish her to also let her know that, listen, you've hurt me. Rather than actually being vocal, he's passive aggressive to say to her, actually, you know what? This is how I feel. Because here's what's happening. Because he's not built up the emotive language, and because he's not built up the stamina to have real conversation and be honest about it, and a lot of us do this, by the way, and be honest, because here's what happened. How do you tell somebody that you're disappointed and they are sick in the hospital? Right? How do you tell somebody? See, real conversation requires real relationship, it requires real honesty. If you're not taught if you're not taught that you can say how you truly feel and that you might be punished for how you say your real feelings, you tend not to want to try and say the real deal. Because here's what should have been said, okay? I am disappointed that you're sick. I can't lie to you because I wanted you to come along with me. I mean, I'm disappointed that you couldn't come along with me. I know you're sick and I know it probably sounds bad that I feel disappointed, but I still feel disappointed. I can't stop how I feel. Because you cannot stop how you feel, right? If you invited somebody to come in and watch you, maybe you were on Broadway, or you were actor or whatever, and you invited your partner to come and watch you act, right? And they told you, babe, I can't make it, I'm sick. How would you feel? You still feel disappointed. Doesn't matter how sick they are, unless they're dead, yeah? Unless they're dead, you're gonna feel disappointment. Why? Because it's a natural feeling. Now, what you're supposed to do with that feeling is a different situation. Emotions are not there. Emotions are not to be blamed for why you took an action. They are there as messages to tell you how you feel. And then when we do that, when we take stock of how we feel, we're supposed to observe, why do I feel the way I do? Okay, she's sick. Why do I feel the way I do? Okay, do you know what? I realized that actually, you know what, Kiana, I really wanted to spend time with you. And I do feel a little bit rejected right now, you know, and I know you're sick and it's not your fault. You can't help that. It's just how I feel. And that's what you got to say. Okay, so that's what we have to get used to trying to say. But a lot of us are not feeling comfortable or emotionally safe, or have never had a conversation with somebody where you actually tell them the actual truth. That you feel like, for instance, how many of you people will tell your friend you feel jealous? Many of you would never tell your friend you feel jealous. You know why? Because no one feels safe telling people they feel jealous. But the reality of the situation is, jealousy is not a bad thing. Neither is envy. Jealousy and envy are not bad things. What jealousy and envy are, they are messages to tell you something. When we feel jealous, it's because you've compared yourself to them, and you've not really recognized that actually you are great as you are. Right? So being jealous, I'm only jealous because I haven't realized how great I actually am. I've stopped focusing on me and started focusing on you. When we have envy, it's because we compare ourselves to someone else. We want what they have. And so what you don't realize is, actually, let me be honest, what do I need to start doing to put myself in a better place to start attaining the very things that I actually want, rather than being envious? But you know what? It's very hard to have that conversation with a friend, because many of us have never built a safe space for other people or with people to be able to have that kind of conversation. Now, there's a few more red flags I need to get into, but my time is done. I've got a coaching session I need to get to. So what I'm going to do is I'll do a part 2. I'll come back later on, probably in a couple of hours time, and I'll break part 2 down, okay? But I want you to understand that people need a safe space to be able to voice how they feel. Now, he may seem crazy, and maybe he is crazy. I don't know. Someone said he did a DV situation. I don't know if he is. All I do know is that when it comes to dismissive avoidance, I understand where they're coming from. I know the pain that they suffer, and I know that sometimes they get locked in a prison. But what will help free you is what the Bible says, that the truth will set you free. Radical truth about how you feel will set you free. Had he just told her, I feel disappointed, I know it may seem inappropriate right now. I know it seems like it's peak right now because you are sick. That's how I feel. I feel disappointed. Rather than lying, because a lot of us lie and say, I'm okay. You're not okay. You feel some type of way. Right? You feel some type of way. It is what it is. Okay? All right? So we'll come back for part 2 a little bit later on. I appreciate you guys. Still up, still loaded. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section as well. Appreciate y'all.